What if I told you someone can control your emotions without ever raising their voice? No threats, no force, just psychology. A few words, a little attention, a little silence, and suddenly you start doubting yourself, chasing approval and emotionally depending on them. This is not magic, it's manipulation. Today, we expose the hidden tactics used by emotional manipulators and how to protect yourself from becoming their puppet. Most people believe emotions are fully under their control, but human psychology has predictable patterns, and manipulated people study those patterns carefully. They understand insecurity, loneliness, fear of rejection, need for validation. Then they use those emotional weak points strategically. This is why manipulation often feels confusing, because the person doesn't look dangerous. They may appear charming, intelligent, caring, but behind the personality, they are carefully influencing your emotions. Not every manipulative person is obvious. Some are extremely subtle. One of the strongest emotional manipulation tactics is inconsistency. Psychologically, unpredictable rewards create stronger attachment. It's the same principle used in gambling addiction. This is called push and pull. First comes the pull, attention, compliments, emotional closeness. Then suddenly, the push, cold behavior, distance, ignoring messages. Your brain notices the emotional loss, and naturally, you begin chasing the positive attention again. This creates dependency, not because the relationship is healthy, but because your brain becomes addicted to uncertainty. Here's another tactic people rarely notice. Sometimes someone shares a deep secret very early. At first, it feels like trust. You think, wow, they feel comfortable with me, but often, this is psychological positioning. Humans naturally respond to vulnerability with vulnerability. So when someone shares something personal, you feel pressure to share something back. And once they know your insecurities, your fears, your emotional triggers, they gain leverage. Real trust develops slowly. Manipulators try to manufacture it quickly. Now, let's look at something surprising. Most people think, if someone helps me, I'll like them more. But psychology can work the opposite way. If you help someone, your brain often increases emotional attachment to them. Because subconsciously, your mind thinks, if I invested effort into this person, they must matter to me. Manipulators use this strategically. They ask for small favors, tiny commitments, emotional support, and gradually, those small actions build psychological investment. This is why boundaries are important. Not every request is harmless. The most dangerous stage of manipulation is isolation. Slowly, the manipulator encourages you to doubt your friends, distance yourself from family, ignore outside opinions. At first, it feels subtle, but eventually, they become your only emotional reference point. And when that happens, control becomes much easier. Healthy relationships increase clarity. Manipulative relationships increase confusion. That's why awareness matters. Because once you recognize the pattern, you regain control. Protect your mind. Protect your boundaries. Protect your independence. Manipulation survives through confusion. Awareness destroys it. The goal is not paranoia. The goal is clarity. Learn the signs. Trust slowly. Observe patterns. And never give someone complete control over your emotions. If you refuse to become anyone's puppet, type free in the comments. Have you ever noticed this? Some people support you until you start doing better than them. At first, they clap for you, but the moment your success becomes real, their energy changes. The compliments feel strange. The support becomes weaker, and suddenly, everything you do gets criticized. Why? Because envy rarely looks like hatred. Most of the time, it hides behind smiles. Today, we decode the psychology of envy and how to protect your focus from it. Most people don't openly want you to fail, but subconsciously, they may not want you to rise higher than them. That's what makes envy dangerous. It's silent. Unlike anger or excitement, envy brings no real satisfaction. It slowly turns comparison into resentment. And in many cases, people don't even realize they're doing it. This is why success changes relationships. Not because you changed completely, but because your growth forces others to compare their lives to yours. One of the clearest signs of envy is the backhanded compliment. For example, "Wow, you got lucky. Must be nice to have easy opportunities. I wish things worked out for me like that." On the surface, it sounds supportive, but underneath, your hard work is being minimized. Notice something important. Envious people often reduce discipline to luck because accepting your effort would force them to confront their own inaction. That's why tone matters more than words. Another common pattern: the person who constantly discourages your ideas while pretending to protect you. Now, constructive criticism is valuable, but there's a difference between honest feedback and fear disguised as advice. For example, you share a new business idea, and immediately they say, "What if it fails? That's too risky." Be realistic. Sometimes concern is genuine, but sometimes people project their own fear onto you. Successful people learn to identify the difference, because too much negativity can slowly destroy momentum. Here's something interesting. Envy doesn't always attack directly. Sometimes it imitates. A person may begin dressing like you, speaking like you, copying your ideas, entering the same space as you. Imitation can be admiration, but constant imitation often signals comparison. They're not just inspired by you, they're studying you, and in some cases, trying to outperform or replace you. This is why self-awareness matters. Don't obsess over competitors, but do pay attention to patterns. As people grow, their circle often becomes smaller, not because success changes everything instantly, but because growth creates distance. Some friendships are built on comfort and sameness, and when one person evolves, the relationship changes. This can feel painful, but it's also revealing. Success acts like a filter. It shows who truly supports you, who only liked the old version of you. And sometimes, silence is better than constant explanation. Build quietly, improve quietly, and let your results speak for themselves. Not everyone who smiles at you is happy for you, and not every critic is your enemy. The key is awareness. Protect your focus, protect your energy, protect your direction. If you're choosing growth over approval, type focus in the comments.